All right, it is showtime. This is the time we get to increase efficiency. And if there's anything that I love more as a CEO of my organization is increasing team efficiency, making things work better, helping people be aligned and charge forwards into the future with purpose. And if there's one thing that has the biggest opportunity for entrepreneurs to lose focus, to be disconnected, and to not move forward, it is this issue of the core value creation. So by the end of this video today, I hope that you will have everything in your toolbox, everything that you need to be able to put boots on the ground. That is the kind of person I am. I was in the United States Air Force. I loved my service to our country, and my whole ethos in my life is about taking the thing that's in your head, the value, the dream, the idea, putting some boots on that thing and moving forward in your life, because we all have our stories. I've got my story and you have got your story. Some of them are very, very, very sad, and some of them are victorious. And your story can convert from wherever you are currently into an incredible and victorious story. And I hope that for you. And I hope that this video is one of the steps along your journey to take you from where you are, from where you're currently standing in your business in this, and I'll get to some of the realities in a minute, but to where you are in the area of creating your core values, to actually putting some methodology to the madness, to and actually getting some very clear cut, effective, injecting this kind of unity and alignment into your company that doesn't exist aside from establishing these and doing it properly, doing it well. So if just a little bit about me, now my name is Jason Ellinger. I'm the CEO of Taika Translations and the Vision People. We've been in business for and doing Taika Translations for about 11 years, totally about 15 years by this point. And I've been an entrepreneur for about 20 years. If you want to count the age between 16 and 18, then you're going to have to add another like 7 years. So I've been about doing entrepreneurial type work for about 27 years at this point, and it's what my life is all about. So I spent my entire career learning how to become better, and I think if you're a leader, you're going to be a reader, you're going to be learning, and that's going to be part of the journey. So one of my biggest challenges that I faced early on in my leading our team was I got to work, I started our company, and I was passionate about this thing. I showed up, nobody had to tell me what to do, and I started to hire a couple people, and it wasn't the case. And I struggled with this for years. But what we're going to learn in this video, in this webinar today, is how that you can completely avoid that altogether. So if you're an entrepreneur starting out, I hope you're watching this video. If you are somebody who's been in business for 5 years and you've been frustrated at some of the misalignment or the miscommunication, or just not knowing why you don't sleep well at night because people don't freaking get it in your company, this is for you. If you've been in business for 10 years and you don't have a clear set of core values, and you're not sick and tired of being sick and tired of repeating your freaking core values each and every day, if that's not you, or if that is you, sorry, then I hope you're in this webinar, because this is where it changes. This is where everything changes and you get to move forwards. All right. So have I lost anybody? Is everybody good? Put it in the chat. Leave me a comment if you will. Let me know who you are, where you are from, and let me know what kind of stage you're in. Do you fall into that entrepreneur stage? Are you right there somewhere in the middle? Or have you been in business for a while and you need to get these things established and you haven't done so yet? If whatever your stage you're in, if that's you, I'm glad you're here, and this is going to be a pivotal piece of knowledge for you moving forwards. It was for me, changed our whole business and caused us to be able to succeed and become more likely to succeed more often in areas of my business that I had no idea, that I was just completely blindsided to. And so I think that's going to be the same thing for you in this webinar today. So let's freaking get to it. So how to increase your team efficiency, creating the core values for your organization. In the beginning, we just don't know. Frustration builds, tensions rise. You go to work and you're working all day, and you look over your team members, like you're supposed to be getting these things done. These aren't, I gave you these things 3 weeks ago and they're still not freaking done. Like, nobody has to ask me to follow up and do these things. Why is my team not doing this? And then what do? I go right home and I go to my wife and I'm like, my freaking team members, the people that I hired, they're so lazy. They're just not getting it. They're not doing the work they're supposed to do. So I have to freaking follow up with them all the time, and they don't seem to understand what it takes to win. And I tell my spouse about it. And then I go to bed frustrated. My kids know I'm frustrated. I'm like, man, being an entrepreneur must be terrible. In reality, it's supposed to be one of the best parts of your life. And it could be, it can be. For me, it is. But for me then, it was not. And for some of you, maybe it's like that. You expect everyone to act like you without telling them or explaining those expectations. You expect everybody to be a hard charger, to not steal, to show up on time, to care about your clients, to not leave early, to finish their projects on time, to have ideas about how to help you grow your company, and the list goes on, just to do what you asked them to do in the first place without having to remind them 10,000 times. Like, you just expect that without ever communicating that reality to them, and not having a mechanism or a matrix or culture producing mechanism that creates that reality. And so the reality is your team doesn't even know they're falling behind. You're getting tense and anxious and upset at them, and they don't even know. And then you're kind of walking through the hallways, and you can kind of feel this cold draft of air when you go by, like, man, my boss is kind of a jerk. Why are they so freaking frustrated? Like, they're just mean. And because you're having the thought in your head, like, man, they're just not doing their job. They're not getting it. They don't understand what it takes to succeed here. They don't understand what it takes to keep a business alive. And they don't realize, they have no idea this is going on in your head. You gave them the task, you haven't said anything, so they think they're doing fine. They don't know they're failing. You are ultimately not leading. Now, that's the hard part. That's the hard part to hear, but it's also the easiest part to fix, because we can change. We can change at any moment. Humans can learn, change, adapt, and grow, and create a new reality in front of us. And that's the best part about all this. But it's also the hardest part. But you have to lead yourself. You're not ultimately leading. They don't know they're failing, and you don't have a mechanism to clearly communicate how we win in this company, how we behave as we work each and every day. How do we go from this situation to alignment, unity, and giving our team the best possible chance to win and succeed ahead? Patrick Lencioni, he talks about the 6 questions you have to answer. I love those questions. They're excellent questions from the book, The Advantage. And actually, I have the book right here. Oh, how convenient. And then Dave Ramsey talks about the 5 stages of business and the 6 drivers. And but you have all of those drivers, you have all of those stages, and which one do you do? How do you do which one? And when do you apply it? How you deploy it? And when you have all this information, you have to do everything all at the same time. It gets very frustrating and overwhelming. What do I do first? Stop. Take a moment. This video is about creating core values. If you watch this video all the way through, by the end of this whole video, you will understand exactly the steps you need to take to set up the core values for your organization. Now, if you have comments or questions along the way, please put them in the chat. My trusty team member, Karina, who's watching that chat and taking care of everything while we're keeping us on the live stream, she's going to be making sure that I get those, and that we'll answer them appropriate times throughout this video. So if you have questions about anything that I say, please follow up by putting it in the chat. Now, if you're watching this video after the live stream, just go ahead and put a comment in below this video, because we are going to be reviewing those, and I will definitely get a solid answer out to you to make sure that those questions are answered. Because I have questions when I'm reading something. For example, when I was just reading Dave Ramsey's not Legacy Journey book, but the most recent one, How to Build a Business You Love, and then there's like all these steps and all these things, different things, and all these stages. I'm like, oh my gosh. But this thing, it's a big, complicated thing, and I have a question about these like 6 things. How do we implement these? And so if you have those type of questions, I'm with you. I know I've got those same questions. Drop them in the comments, and I will make sure that I get a very comprehensive, solid answer out to you. All right. Quick overview. In this session, we're answering these 3 questions. Why is it vital for every leader to have core values for their company? How do I establish my company's core value? How do I do it for our team, for us? And how do I use it? These 3 questions, by the end of this video, you don't know the answers to those questions. So let's rock it. So my name is Jason Ellinger. I'm the CEO of Taika Translations and the Vision People. We help teams and companies all around the world with human resource augmentation. We do interpretation, translation, seeing blind assistance, 508 compliancy creation, and all types of video editing and services in that regard. So reach out to us if you need any of those services. However, that's where my background is and my experience comes from regarding building a company. And that's the type of company I've been working in over these past 11 years specifically. Prior to that, I was in an HVAC company. And then before that, I was in the United States Air Force. And then before that, I ran my own small landscaping company in South Texas. So all of that leading up to this point right here, it's given me a wealth of knowledge around running, owning, operating companies over a long period of time. And I hope you get a very powerful and meaningful wealth of information out of this video today. Because if you take and apply what I have, you will sleep better at night, you will make more money, and you will be ultimately way more fulfilled in your business. I promise you that. So like the video, please subscribe to the channel and leave us a comment below, or please send us a question. I love to answer the questions that real people are having about real issues. Send us a question and we will answer that and help you move upwards and forwards. That's one of our core values in my company, proactive. We are proactive. So we move forwards and upwards. We help ourselves move forwards and upwards by implementing each and every day, and we help other people do the same thing. So I'm so excited to be able to do that with you today. So let's rock it. All right. Why does it even freaking matter? Who cares about core values? We just need to make money. Okay. It is one of the things that gives, this is one of the most important reasons. I was trying to think as I wrote this list down. I create all of these slideshows, by the way. I was writing this list down. I was like, okay, what is the number one thing that it does for our business more than anything else? It does this. This is the core. Get this, guys. If you have core values, it gives your business, it's one of the elements, one of the 6 main elements, answering one of the 6 questions, 6 main elements that gives your business the best chance to survive. Markets go up and they go down. Sales go up and sales go down. One administration changes and another one comes in and completely wipes out how things were done before, and everything is new. Innovation happens, technology disrupts our marketplace, stuff happens. But core values are one of the vital elements of your organization that give you the best chance to survive those conditions, those changing conditions. If there's one thing that's certain, the conditions will change. But if you have core values that help your team continually lean in the right directions and produce the culture that you should be having, you will give yourself the best possible chance to survive those changing times. And I think that's one of the most important things that it does. And I hope that you kind of grow to understand that as we move through this video. It aligns. The next thing it does, it aligns. It creates alignment, perfect unity. It creates a expectation in your team about how other people are going to behave towards them and how they're supposed to behave towards other people. And once they don't, it feels weird, because when somebody walks by and says, oh, so one of our core values is, we treat others like we want to be treated here. How you just treated Sarah over there, was that how you would want to be treated? because that did not look like it felt good. And if you actually have leaders walking by and saying this, or you actually have team members in the company actually like, oh, you know what? Here we treat each other the way we want to be treated, like the golden rule. That's one of our core values. So if you do that kind of behavior, you can't be here. You can't be on our team. So when you have people doing that on a daily basis, it aligns the team and helps them to be able to prosper in ways you could never imagine. It provides a source of truth, one source of truth to constantly point back to say, hey, we are in alignment with this thing. We are charging forward with this mentality. We believe in momentum. Focus intensity over time multiplied by God equals unstoppable momentum. It helps us charge forward. It gives you as a leader clarity. It helps you to be able to understand when somebody has gone way outside of that alignment with that core value. You can point back and say, hey, this core value is being broken. People who break this core value can't stay here. And you get to point back at that. And then other team members start doing the same thing. And it's an amazing thing that happens. It's like, oh, we're out of alignment. Yeah, because we're out of alignment, because we're not living congruent to what we said we are. So now we're out of alignment. It gives you clarity as a leader to understand when behavior mishaps occur, you're able to say, look, this is the core value that you're breaking right now, and it has to change. People who are on our team act like this. And if you're not one of us, you're not one of us, and you can't stay. It helps the team operate more freely within behavioral boundaries. And I want to make sure that you're not hearing me say, like, you're going to get like, this is not the thing you use to tell your team members, you're going to get fired. 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 No, it's more like people need to be reminded more often than they need to be taught. Okay. And that's the kind of the guiding principle here. You're going to use this every day to remind people instead of teach them every single day. Like, hey, we do this way. Are you one of us or are you one of them who don't work here? Because we do this. All right. So it helps your team operate more freely within behavioral boundaries. So he's like, oh, these are the things, this is how we behave. So anything you do inside of that, you are free to choose and make decisions and run and prosper and go crazy. Just don't go outside of that boundary. And when you set boundaries and get great freedom, they can charge forward to make decisions like you would make decisions because they're inside the boundaries of those values. You're good. You got this. The values, they trickle down into every single area of your business. Everyone. There is no area of your business that is outside of the area of your core values. Okay, it makes you more money. That's awesome, right? Making more money is amazing. And it even helps you sleep better. Really and truly. Because now you're not going home and saying, wifey or husband, this so-and-so at work is a nut. And I can't stand it anymore. And I'm just frustrated. And you're just mulling over it as you're going to bed at night. It's like, man, brushing my teeth in there. Like, gosh dang, that team member doesn't get it. All right. No, none of that happens anymore because now you're aligned. You've got all of that stuff out the window. You've aired all the dirty laundry. You're good to go. All right. So if anybody has any more questions about why it matters, please drop it in the comments because we're going on. This train is leaving the station. Here we go. All right. Things you need to know about the core values. Core values will become evident in everything you do in some way. I just said that, and some of this stuff is going to sound reiterative, but that is on purpose. As a CEO, you will quickly realize that your AKA title is CRO, which means Chief Reminding Officer. So if you hear me reminding you about something I said previously, that's intentional. Because maybe it's part of my nature by now after doing this for like 20 years. So, all right, core values will become evident in everything you do in some way, or they are not core values. Core values tell the world who you are, and they also tell the world who you are not. Okay? And it's very important because people need to know who you are and be able to resonate with that. They can resonate that and connect with you deeply. And you're like, well, what if it drives some people away? You probably don't want to work with them anyways. You want to work with the people that should be working with you. You can't work with every human on the planet, but you can work with a lot of them. And the people that value some of the similar things that you value, they're going to be your best clients and end up being your best friends. All right, core values are not aspirational. They're not who we want to be, but they are who we are. Us being congruent, being consistent to who we are. Core values help you and everyone on your team align with you. Now you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds selfish. You started a business, you're the owner of the business, you have to give the business an identity. And that identity starts with you. We'll talk about that later, but this is very important thing. This is a very important thing to understand. If at the buck has to stop with someone. And that someone, if you're the owner, is you. And that's why you have to create the core values for your organization to give them that alignment tool. Core values are the foundation. They are the bedrock of your company's culture. If you have no core values, you have no foundation, and you have no ability to convey culture and get it weaved into every operation in your organization. The last thing on the things to know is core values already exist. You just don't know it, but you have them. Now, we're going to get into how to establish core values. Oh man, this is exciting. All right, does anybody have any questions at this point? If you do, drop it in the comments below, send me a message, and my trusty team member, Karina, will make sure that I see that message and we get about the process of answering that for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, how to establish core values. This is the meat of this thing, okay? It is all about introspection, inspection, and the list, okay? If you're a one-man show, I just want to make sure that I put this at the front of this thing. If you've just started your business and you're a one-woman show, make sure you involve, the process involves you deeply thinking about the things that you truly are, okay? If you already have a team, it requires observation by the leaders of how decisions are made in every area of the organization. So you have to initiate the process with your leaders, letting them know, hey guys, we are going to create core values for our company. Pretty much as simple as that. You go into the meeting, I don't know, it depends on how big your team is. If you have 5 people, it's like, hey Joe, we're gonna make core values for our company. But if you have like 20 people in your company, and it's like, maybe I go talk to Sarah and Susan and Jack and say, all right, leaders, we're going to create core values for our company, okay? And let them know that we're going to initiate a process that's going to create clarity in by way of creating core values. And then take the time to observe how key decisions are made and what values they demonstrate. Note these decision-making patterns for discussion with your leaders. So this is kind of an intro to this step 1, okay? So you need to let people your leaders know, if you have them, that you're going to be creating core values for your organization, so that they're like, okay, well, I've heard about core values. They're plastered on the walls at banks, and when you go into these big high-rise buildings, they're plastered on the walls of these big corporations, like integrity, diligence, service before self, and all these things. And you're like, man, I did not feel like that organization has any integrity whatsoever, but it's plastered all over their wall. That's not a core value. That's a perfect demonstration of corporate America, which is probably why you're in entrepreneurship anyways. So the decision-making patterns for your organization at this time, when you initiate this process with your team, you say, hey guys, we're going to go through the process of creating core values for our organization and driving towards clarity in this area. And I want you guys to be observing in your sections how you're making decisions. What principles do you use to drive decisions in your area? And now you, as the owner of the whole thing, take that 50,000-foot view, look down into your organization, like, okay, what are the patterns that we are currently using that I've always used, that I just kind of inherently use to make decisions, that I've used as a matrix to set us up to make decisions for our organization? And then we're going to move to the next slide where we're going to get more clarity here on how to do this. All right. Man, I keep pushing the button on my keyboard. and I actually have to click. I just have to click, not the button. So a couple more things to know. You cannot make core values about something you want to exist. It must be already in existence. You heard me say that before, but it's worth repeating. Otherwise, you look like a hypocrite because you're acting like a hypocrite. And anything that walks like a duck, anything that talks like a duck, anything that quacks like a duck is a duck. You don't want to be a core value hypocrite. Like, remember corporate America? You walked in the office, it's plastered all over the wall, integrity. You walk inside, you walk inside the DMV or some bureaucratic government office, and you got to get some kind of thing down there like service. Client service is our mantra. And you're like sitting there for 3 hours before anybody even notices you're in the room to serve you. You're like, that core value does not exist here. Okay, this is the type of hypocrisy that we do not do when we are creating core values. I just want to make sure I drive that home. Don't do that. Your team will sniff that out in a heartbeat, and you will look at like a hypocrite because you're a hypocrite. So don't be a hypocrite. These have to be true, okay? Start making the list of possible core values that will grow throughout this process. The list is the list that you will start adding phrases and words to that you will refine in the end of the process. But you have to start, I call it the list because I don't even know how to call it better, because it's just actually a list of words and phrases that you start to extract from your processes and your operations, helping you understand how to describe or explain some of the core values or the characteristics of core values, so you can get some clarity for yourself and really get through and refine and make sure you don't be hypocritical, because you're actually using things that actually you believe in and that work. All right, the list is comprised of words and phrases that describe your company and its characteristics as you move through this process. Look at that. I wrote it down right on the screen. I didn't realize it. All right. So step number one. So I gave like this big intro to step number one, but you needed to know those things in order to be able to understand how to move forwards with these. All right, so step number one is this. Identify 3 key personalities. Now, who are the 3 key personalities? You can see on your screen. One is you, your key personality for your organization. Your personal core values as the owner matter. There's a reason you got into business. There's a inclination of faith or religion for your worldview. There are values that you have in your life that you don't think should be violated, and those matter. You have to take yourself on a piece of paper and write those down. Things that matter to you, things that are non-negotiable, that you will not change no matter what, because it is dead true to you. And those have to be identified. You have to extract those. Okay, the second personality we have to find is a great, like rock star, current or past team member. Some rock stars are not in our organizations anymore, and that's kind of sad. But there are rock stars in our organization, people who freaking bring it every single day. They rock it with us. They help us to prosper, and they help us to grow our company, and they have the characteristics necessary to help us to drive forwards to success. And you're like, man, I love that team member. They're just on fire. All right, so you have to identify one of those in your organization. They're probably pretty easy to see. And unfortunately, this one is also probably easy to see. A terrible, hopefully past, previous, no longer with you team member. If they're still with you, that's very bad, and that's very sad. But that's a topic for another discussion of uncomfortable conversations, and maybe even leading into the firing session. But terrible team member, you need to identify this personality as well, because it's going to be very, very important in helping you to identify the core values for your organization. So identify these 3 personalities, starting with yourself, the excellent team member, and the terrible past team member. All right, the first personality is you. What do you do with you? All right, your personal goals, your vision, your values, all of these impact your business, whether you like it or not. What do I stand for? You have to ask yourself the question. In fact, I'd recommend you take out just a sheet of paper, have a couple of sheets of paper, just grab it from your printer, 2 or 3 pieces of paper, and write down at the top, what do I stand for? and then write yourself a narrative. Start by writing yourself not like a 10-page narrative, but a narrative that explains what you stand for. This could be a paragraph, it could be 3 paragraphs, I don't know, but that's specific to you. You know what you stand for, and you need to write that down because this is pivotal for being able to understand the core values. So, what do I stand for? Write that at the top of the page and start answering that question. Now, write out the question, or write out the end, the narrative for that question, and take another piece of paper and write down at the top of that page what values would I like to live out and be known for. What values would I like to be live? Sorry, what values would I like to live out and be known for? Like, and I know that kind of sounds semi-aspirational, but what I'm trying to help you do is to kind of expand your mind, your how you look at this a little bit, so that you're looking at it, yes, from your kind of your tunnel vision of what's in here and what's in here, and putting that on paper with what you stand for, kind of that introspective thing. But at the same time, now what do I want my reputation to be? What do I want to be known for? Having that so outward perspective in that kind of view, and write that down. Write a narrative around what you want to be known for. I want to be with someone who's known who has a high discipline. I want to, if you have discipline, um, I want to be someone who's known for managing their business well. I want to be someone who's known for uh, uh, um, showing up on time, being a good friend, being a strong communicator, helping in relationships and things like that. They all need to come out in this narrative. Okay, write yourself this narrative. Answer the question clearly for yourself, and then ask yourself in a third sheet of paper, what does success look like to me? Write that down at the top of the page. Now, really write down, what does success look like? And if all you have is the phrase more money, then I probably can't help you, and this webinar probably won't help you either. Okay, but if you define success um, in the sense that you're making progress on a journey towards meaningful goals that matter, that influence the world and make the world a better place, and cause your dreams to come true, and build character into the lives and hearts and minds of your children and your team members, and your team and your children. If your children, if the children of your team members get to go to college because you did your job well, that would freaking feel like success to you, right? That kind of stuff. Write that down and mean it. Do that introspective work. Think about, what does it mean to succeed? Far more valuable than the resources, than the money that you're creating. What does it really mean to succeed? To give people a safe place to work, to give people a place to work where they can demonstrate their faith without fear of reprisal, to give people to be able to work near loved ones and demonstrate Christianity, or to be able to live to work in a place that has high integrity and is known for excellence, like be able to create an organization like that. If that seems like success to you, define that. What does success look like to me? Write it down at the top of the page and write yourself a narrative about this. Again, you're the CEO of the organization. You should be able to do this because you're the leader. I thought I wrote a lot at college when I finished university. I went to Liberty University, and I finished my bachelor's degree there. And I thought I wrote a lot there, and then I became the CEO of an organization. It's like what I wrote there and how much I wrote there, doesn't even come close to how much I write now. So you can write these 3 things, and it's very important for you to do this. So please take time to write down what you stand for, what values you would like to live out, and what you would like to be known for, and then what success looks like for you. And again, this is for you personally. You're not like what is success in general. No, this is what does success look like to Cindy? What does success look like to Eric? What does success look like to Janet or Jim or John or you specifically? Write the narrative. Okay? Then, after you've written down these narratives, take some time and go through them. Extract the descriptive phrases and words and add them to the list. Okay? You have your list, the list, right? So look at your narratives. And by the way, keep them because they're very, very valuable. and I put them in like a diary or some place that's very special that I can find and refer to back whenever I need to, right? Um, so extract the descriptive phrases and words and add them to the list. This will help you start to populate a list of words and phrases that kind of shed some light on the things that you deeply value. You for example, in your narrative, you may some previous experiences may come out. I hated when if you're writing like I started this company because when I was in a previous company, my boss treated me like dirt and disrespected everyone in our company and talked down to us. And now I'm leading this company because I want other people. I want to treat other people. I want to create an organization where other people can be treated like I want to be treated, and that's good, not bad, not talked down to, not being ugly to, not demeaned. And so that you can say, okay, so this is kind of like the golden rule, right? Yes, so it's kind of like the golden rule. So you extrapolate that and you put that on the list and you start to populate the list from your narrative. Start to make very short phrases or word summaries from your narratives, put them on the list so that you start to gain a comprehensive list of eligible items for your values for your business. Now, involve your leaders in the process. So after you've done this part for you, this is all you've done this individually by yourself, basically. Now, or with your spouse, it's also helpful if you have a spouse, you can do this together, and they can definitely help you work through the process of this. Then you bring that to your leaders and like, okay, guys, here's the list of my core values for our organization, for me personally. And I understand that a lot of the operations in our company have some of these core values, and I want your help to help understand how we can weave these values into the in organization as like comprehensively. Like, how can we take these and weave them in? So you show the leaders the core values, and you ask them like, here's some values that we see. What is non-negotiable for us? Some of those values might stay in your personal core values, and that's fine. But some of them, they'll say, actually, this core value, I definitely see you living this out each and every day. Like, this is super important to you, and I've seen you do this 1,000 times here. I just haven't known how to call it, but that's it. And you're like, okay, this is a great candidate for a core value. And then you ask them, what are some things that we think are the cause of winning from this list of core values? What are some of those things? And what are some of the things that we're not willing to compromise on? And from this event, this discussion where you show them your core values, and then you work through this with them, and that will pour some pour some gasoline on the fire of conversation around the core value issue, because they know you already told them. Remember, you already told them that you were going to initiate the conversation how to create core values for your organization, and now you're doing it, and now you're saying, all right, here's some of the core values that I think that are eligible. Which ones have you seen? Which ones have you guys experienced in this organization day after day after day? And how can we weave them in? And what are some other ones? And you'll start to talk about this. This will generate a lot of conversation around it. You're like, oh yeah, this is I actually have seen this, and I've seen that, and this is important, and that's important. And you'll start to get this pretty good list going with your team. But you're going to have to pour the gas on it. And the way to initiate that fluid, that first kind of dump of gas onto that bonfire is to make sure that you have your personal core values written down first, put them on the list, and bring that to the team. It's like, okay, these are some eligible items. Now, what's some other ones that we can bring into this? You cannot impose your values on the team. You must involve them in the process and get buy-in. If you just come and say, these are the values for our company, and the team members are like, I wouldn't even understand that core value, and I'm pretty sure I've seen you do the opposite of that sometimes. So that does not sound like a core value at all. And then you look like a hypocrite. Nobody buys into it. You end up as one of those companies that have it plastered on the wall, but nobody really cares. And worse, nobody lives it out. So don't do that. You cannot impose your core values on anyone. You have to either get buy-in or move that core value off the list. All right. If you don't have team members, ask a spouse, trusted friend, or family member to get into the conversation to help you. This is very introspective. This is very personal. This process is very you-centric, and it really matters that you get this right. So you have to be very true to yourself and true to your tribe about what it is that you stand for. And that means really talking with the people closest to you who know you best. They may really help draw some of these out. All right. So this is about knowing you and your core values. All right. The second thing you have to do. Second thing is the brainstorming identities. Brainstorming identity 1, remember, is the awesome team member. Brainstorming identity 2 is the terrible team member. So if you have identified the awesome current team member, they exhibit values that you deeply admire, that you appreciate, and that you think are key for causing you to win. Now, that awesome team member, you need to take that, like not literally dissect them, but dissect how they do what they do and what it is that makes them awesome, and write down the words and phrases. And again, some of these things on the list, they're going to be repetitive. You're going to see like, okay, that is kind of the same as that, but it's okay. At this stage, it doesn't matter. The point is to populate a list of items on this, a list of items on the list, a list of items, and a list of words and phrases that make up, that explain some of the values that you deeply, deeply want to be part of your organization. And as you dissect the team member, asking yourself the questions about observing when your company and when you guys are all operating at your best, what is it? What is about that that moment, that period, that project, those things when you're operating at your very best that describes a value or that brings out something that genuinely means something very important to you? Maybe it's something like never giving up. Maybe it's something about like being proactive. Maybe it's something like treating others the way we want to be treated. Maybe it's something that that involves client service. We always cross the finish line. I remember when we were deliberating about how to explain a core value of ours, we said, okay, well, it's never give up as a core value, but it's kind of a global generalized idea. Okay, of never giving up. Yeah, that sounds rah-rah-ish, but what does it mean for us? And we said, what it means is we always cross the finish line. We never give up because we always cross the finish line, no matter what we're doing. And then we backed that up with stories. Sometimes a client came in and it was a massive project and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. And we're processing this thing and we realized it was far bigger than we thought it was. And it took vastly more effort than we thought it would. And our timeline was still the same and we couldn't extend that. It was a hard deadline. And we're like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to work like 18-hour shifts for the next 2-3 days so that we can actually get this done on time. And we did that. We actually absolutely committed to that. Everybody on the team, they just got in gear and got engaged and did that. And we pushed through. And we said, man, what was it about that? We anyways, it was hard. It was tough. It was raw. But what was it about that explained it? It's like we had to cross the finish line. Somebody said we had to finish. We had to cross that finish line. So never giving up to us means we have to cross the finish line. This was actually a real story, by the way. It wasn't something that I just made up in my head. It's something that really happened with my team. And we really did that. And that was very indicative up to us about the core value, something that we held very dear to us. And we thought, if this is a reality for our company day after day after day, week after week after week, if we continue to show up and we never give up and we always cross the finish line, super serving clients, we can win. And so that goes on the list. Okay? That's an example. These conversations will come up. You'll have stories and lots of conversation in and throughout this. And you need to pour fluid on those conversations and really draw out, okay, well, in that situation, in that scenario, I see this kind of core value manifested. I think that's what you're trying to say there. And you're like, okay, no, actually that's not quite right. I think it's more like this. And the team members, you go back and forth until you get to a spot where you're like, yeah, actually this is it. That's right. That's exactly right. I think that's exactly right what you just said. And then you draw that out and put that on the list. Okay? What words and phrases describe the traits of the awesome team member, the traits of when you're operating at your best and things are functioning amazing and you're on cloud nine and you're just doing great, and the characteristics of that. What is that makes that a reality? And what makes it so valuable to you that it is in that state? Add those to the list. Ask your team, What are some things, values, and characteristics that are really, really important to us? You're going to have to ask this question again and again throughout this process. As the leader, as the one who's initiated this process for everyone on your team, you have to ask this to your team members like, hey guys, so as we go through creating creating these core values, what are the values, the things, the characteristics, the moments in our history that bring out the best in us, that show and demonstrate stuff that truly matters to our organization? What are those things? You're going to have to ask this again and again and again to really provide fluid throughout the process and keep it focused on really driving to those core values you're looking for. And then you're going to have to refer back to the awesome team member personality to help you initiate discussion and foster conversation again and again as you just mull through this. And the goal is not to finish in the quickest amount of time. The goal is to get the right value. So never get lost in that aspect. And as hard driving entrepreneurs, I know the temptation is to like, okay, here's an initiative. Let's drive through the finish line. Let's get it done. But that's not what this is about. This is about really doing that introspective look at yourself and at your team and what it means to succeed and what you believe is super valuable, and writing those down and making sure that you get to clarity so that you can use these. And we'll talk about that a little bit further ahead. All right, the next thing we have to do, identify the terrible team member. Hopefully past, because if it's not a past team member, man, that I feel very sad for you, because if you have a terrible team member and they're currently on your team, and actually a lot of teams have a terrible team member, and the leaders just don't know what to do. But the process of going through and creating core values is actually one of the things that you need to do so that you can identify and help them to understand to what level they need to raise the bar in order to be able to perform well on your team. This is actually really helpful with that. But if they're just a terrible team member and they need to be off your team, well, we need to get them off as soon as possible in a very dignified way. So remember, they may have been talented, they may have been good at their job, but they were a terrible fit and they drove people nuts. I remember a business owner telling the story about he had just finished a staff meeting on the morning of his Monday morning. And immediately after the staff meeting, he had an appointment. He was going to deal with some clients. And so he had his team of about 15 people there gathered around the table. They went through, they did their staff meeting, and he walked out to his car. And he got to the car, he tried to open the door, and was like, what the heck? Ah, man, I forgot my keys. So he walked back to the office, and the table, their conference table was right in front of the door. And so he walked back into the office, opened the door, and walked in. And he found his lead, the second in command, telling everyone in the staff meeting, finishing up the staff meeting by telling everyone how dumb he, as the owner of the company, was. And he just stood there quietly. She didn't know that he was standing there. And she just went on and on and on about how the company will never prosper with these kind of dumb antics, and while he doesn't have the knowledge or the skills or the talent to be able to take it to the next level, but she knows how to do better, and yada yada yada. And the team, they were just sitting there, and he was standing there saying, well, like they're just in shock. And eventually, must have been the hairs on the back of her neck stood up, because she turned around and she said, oh gosh. And there, the owner of the company standing behind her, she just went on and on about how dumb he was. And they went directly into the office, and he was like, okay, so we're done, because either you're too dumb to be here or I'm too dumb to keep you on, but both of us are dumb if we let you stay here. So I'm going to practice being a little bit smarter, and you have to leave so that we're not being dumb together. Okay. so anyways, it's a comical story just to represent that sometimes terrible team members, even though they're very talented, this lady was his lead salesperson, very, very talented. And it was slightly fearful to let her go because he didn't have another salesperson as good as she was. Even though she was incredibly talented, she exhibited some characteristics that were very, very bad. And those couldn't exist in the organization in order for it to prosper. Now, that organization was 15 team members. That's gone on. They have over 1,100 team members today. They started on a card table in the living room. And that guy is still the leader of that organization. That's a freaking wow moment, because he learned that he had to hire people that were excellent, that adhered to the values that mattered to him and his vision for his company, and then over time live those core values for a period of about 40 years, and they would prosper eventually. So remember, they may be talented but not a good fit, and you have to identify why. What is it about them that made them a distraction and a problem for our company? Okay, this is the terrible team member. You're dissecting their characteristics. What was it about them when they were involved in a project, when you're working together on something, that they just didn't drive? It didn't feel right. You couldn't connect. There was no synchronization. There was this kind of animosity. There was something in the works that just gummed it up and just brought down the tone from like high speed rock star, let's freaking move this thing, to like just kind of this kind of mundane, this yuckiness, this kind of, you just feel in the air that something's wrong, but you're not quite sure what it is. And that's when you understand that that team member is the one that was allowing that problem to be prevalent, and you need to identify those characteristics. What was it that made that a reality? Why was that? Are we, that's a good manifestation of the golden rule. How would I want to be treated if I was the owner and my team member talked bad about me in front of my team? Would I want to be treated that way? Or do I allow gossip in my organization? Gossip is anything negative shared laterally or downward? Or is that going to be, or gossip? We don't gossip in my organization, right? If we gossip, it's one time you get warned, the second time you get fired. That's it. And that means anything perceived to be negative by leadership that's shared laterally or downward. Any negative conversations that cannot be, that you share with somebody else who can't do anything about it, is gossip. Okay? Those can only go upwards to a leader who can do something about it, maybe who can take it to another level, who can do something about it to make sure that activity or that behavior doesn't happen anymore. So that's why no gossip can be a core value, right? And a lot of companies have that. My company especially has that. What is about them that made them a distraction and a problem? So why do they add value by being absent? I know that sounds funny. It always cracks me up. But why does this? If this person is absent, they add value to our organization. Okay? Why do they add value by being absent? In essence, what is no longer here now that this person is no longer here? Well, we're no longer at each other's throats. We're no longer frustrated in the details of a project. We're no longer missing deadlines. We're no longer, just go through the list. What is it about this person when we no longer have gossip? Whatever it is, what is it about this person that was always bringing the tone of the operations down whenever he or she was present? Excuse me. I know I'm saying she. I don't mean that it's only women. It could be him or her. I guess I'm just saying she more often than not because I'm not paying attention. So it could be a him or her that is causing the problem. But what is it about him or her that's causing the problem when they are here? And identifies those characteristics and add those to a different list, not the list, but add those to a list. So you have a very comprehensive conversation around this. Now, if you haven't had a terrible team member, I hope you never do. Odds are, if you're in small business, you probably will eventually, but I hope you never do. If you don't currently, you may have worked with someone in previous jobs that they were just terrible team members and you hated working with them. And it was just really, really difficult, or maybe a horrible, hard boss to work with. Write the things down that were really, really, agitating or really painful about that process. Write those down, because those help you to identify. Once you have identified all of those negatives, now you can transition and say, okay, these are the negatives. Now, what are the opposites of all of these characteristics? And once you create the opposites of all of the negatives that you wrote down, you can add those to the list. For example, this person was a gossiper, mean, spirited, frustrated, angry person. Okay, so no gossip. We mean-spirited and angry means we treat others with dignity. We do our work until treat others as we want to be treated. Those things like that, they can be added to the list. They're basically the opposites of all of the negatives you wrote down about the terrible team member. And that's why we do have to be very comprehensive about this conversation, about really identifying what it is that matters to us and what the values are that we hold very, very deeply that guide our company forwards, because this is going to be pivotal for you in leading your team and helping them align as you move forwards in this process of application of the core values. All right, so take the negatives, decide the opposites for each one, add the opposites to the list. All right, now let's move forward and do a self-check. In this part of the process, step 2, self-check and refine. By this point, the list is pretty long, and it's probably kind of redundant. You went through your own, you went through the great team member, you went through the evil team member, and now you get to do the self-check. Take the list and do a self-check for all the values that are represented on this list. And as you do this, you need to ask yourself and your team, guys, is this something we embody? Or is it something that is not true about us, but we think that it would be nice? Is it something that we truly embody here in our organization, that we guide decisions with, that we believe has to be present in order for us to succeed, in order for us to have a working team-like environment? And then write those down. Write those down in a list and separate them, okay, from the list. Now refine that list by asking that question and having a lot of conversation around, okay, which ones of these are most important for us and that are actually truly embodied here on our team and that we think must be a reality in order to be able to succeed. You must be honest with yourself. If it's not true if it's not true today, do not add it as a core value candidate, okay? If it's not true, don't add it. The biggest mistake you can make is creating a hypocritical list of values. If you do that, your team will sniff it out. They will see that you're not true to your knitting, and they will not believe you. And that will kill the effect of all the work that you've done, even up to this point, and hope for in the future. It will absolutely destroy it. So you have to be able to make sure that these are actual true core values that impact your daily routines, the works, the decisions, how you pay people, how you deal with conflict, everything. And it has to be true. During the self-check, put all the values on a separate list of actual core value candidates. They have to be true. Remember this. Don't be hypocritical. If there's one thing that people cannot stand, people are smart, they're intelligent, they're sharp, and they, no matter what position they're in, from janitor to chief executive, they can sniff out when you are not practicing your core values. And when you're saying something and you're saying like, we are full of integrity, but you do things that are kind of shady, and it's like, that's not very like integrity based. And then you break down their belief. And if you break down their trust for the core value you just established while preaching that you do that, you become a hypocrite in front of their eyes, and you will never be able to gain ground with helping team members align with those values. So it's vital in this stage that you self-check and refine. Is this true? Is it true some of the times, or is it true all the time? Now, none of us is perfect. Look, during the self-check, you put all the values on a separate list of actual core value candidates, and then you remove all hypocrisy. Your heart and your team will know, so be vigilant. You must be vigilant in this process. Don't allow yourself to make hypocritical core values, because they will fall flat. You'll be frustrated afterwards because you did all this work and it still fell flat because you weren't true to core values that matter to you. All right. So the self-inspection and refining, take the refined list and ask, are any of these redundant, or do they fit within another value represented here? So if any of the values have repeated themselves, make sure you combine them, condense them, and then rewrite the list. Now, at this stage, you should have a very eligible list of core values. This list that you have right now, after you've gone through that purification process, should be a very defined list of the core values for your team, for your organization. There is no wrong number of core values. I know Patrick Lencioni says you need to have 3 core values max. Dave Ramsey and their team, they have like 14. And other teams, they have like 5 or 4. The number is not as vital as the fact that you need to make sure they are yours, that they are true, you are true to your knitting, and that you have and your team agree that these things matter. They're non-negotiable, and we will do them at all costs while we operate this organization. If we can't do these things while we operate, we're not going to operate at all. Okay, so that's the level of commitment that you as a person and as a leader have to have with this list that you're creating around the core values in your organization. The step 3 of this process is you have to make them clear to you. I'm going to pause for half a second here, and I'm going to look at the question that Carlos wrote in. He said, how do we react when you understand that you have been neglectful or hypocritical of some of the core values in the past, but you now see that it's important to have them in your organization? Carlos, I appreciate the heart of that question. And so actually the answer to that question is part of the information on this slide. Okay, so no human is ultimately perfect. We understand that no human is ultimately perfect, okay? But I want to tell you a story in just a moment that kind of that helps to understand the answer to this question. And I'm going to mention the thing on the slide, I'm going to tell the story, and then hopefully you'll have the answer to the question. If you or your company is not currently as you want it to be, this is the moment. You have this list. You've decided these are the values you live by. This is the moment you decide. You are that person, and you're never going back. I am this person. This is who I am and how I live, and I'm never going back. Now, I'm saying that as I moved into the story really quickly. This just happened recently in my team, on my organization. I'm the one here standing up talking about how to create core values and live them out, but it just happened, and I did it. Worst of all, my team members were talking in a chat. Actually, no, I got a message on a Friday evening. We worked all week. It was really a challenging, frustrating week, and they were working through some different projects. And at the end of the week, on the last couple of hours on Friday, one of my team members who I'd given an assignment to, I said, hey, I want you to do this, have this done by this deadline. And they said, okay. So the deadline is there, basically Friday evening, because Friday afternoon was the deadline. And he came to me and asked me a couple of questions, and I responded very sharply and very if it was on a one-to-one chat with an individual leader, it would have been fine. But the problem was it was not on a one-to-one chat, and I didn't realize that. And so it had the potential for me to look like I degraded him in front of some other leaders. And while I was frustrated and I didn't want to answer that question, and I was following up with very clear and kind of sharp answer, like, I gave you this task to do. You were supposed to get it done by this deadline, and you didn't follow through. If that's a one-on-one chat, that's a kind of okay. But if it's in a group chat with some other leaders, that's really bad. And I said that, and I sent the message, and I looked and I was reading through the chat, trying to figure out, and I looked and I was like, oh no. I just broke one of our core values. I would never want somebody to degrade somebody else in front of, or question the proactivity or the hardworking nature of the individual in front of another team member. I would never allow that. And so what do? So I realized that I sent it in a group chat when I thought I had just been communicating earlier that day in a one-on-one chat on some other issues. He's one of my executive team members. And then in that moment, I asked it I told them those few comments in a very clear and in that setting, disrespectful manner, and that could seem disrespectful to others. And so I had to apologize, and I had to apologize in front of all of the leaders, and they're my leaders on my team. Like, guys, I just broke a core value. How we did this out, I made a mistake, and that's not how we do things here. And this was completely inappropriate what I did. And I want to apologize to you. You ask for forgiveness because mistakes happen. You apologize, you realign yourself, and you move forwards. So, Carlos, the heart, that's the heart of the answer to your question, because nobody is ultimately perfect. And while these values are true 99% of the time for your entire organization, sometimes you screw up. And sometimes you're the one who created them and you literally screw up. Maybe it's because of lack of knowledge, maybe because you just answered in a different chat than you thought you were answering in, and you answered in front of a bunch of other people that you shouldn't have been answering like that in front of. And in that situation, it's inappropriate. In the other situation, it's a one-on-one conversation. We're creating clarity, and that's fine. But in that, because there's another value we have in my organization, is to be unclear, is to be unkind. So, but that can mean a little bit different things if you're in a setting where there's too many people that could get an unclear understanding of what you said to the team member because it sounded a certain way and they don't have any context, but you have the context and the team member has the context, but they don't. So it looks very disrespectful. And so what do? We apologize and we are realigned with the value, Carlos, and then we get to charge forwards. So that came at an exact right time, Carlos. I mean, that question couldn't have come in any better time. So thank you for that. So because you will be using your core values daily, you have to make them stick. It means you need to make them easy to recall. You need to make them easy to explain. So remember how I said never giving up. So we said never give up. What does that mean? That means we always cross the finish line, whether that's on a project, whether that's serving a client, whether that's doing team member reviews, whether it's following up on details or writing our marketing campaigns or whatever it is, we always cross the finish line. And so that's how we make that value stick in our organization. Or remember what I said about gossip. We don't gossip in our organization. We don't gossip. What is gossip? Anything down, anything lateral, or anything down, that's gossip. We don't do that here, right? So you have to make them stick in an easy to explain way because you're going to be coming back again and again and again. The wording must represent your company exactly as it is and as you want it to be. As the owner and executive team, it has to represent that exact reality. If you or your company is not currently as you want to be, this is where you decide to change so you become that person. From today forward, I will be a person of integrity. I will tell the truth. I will be a person of discipline. Now, don't make that decision if you're not going to do it. But if you are going to do it from today forward. And now we have changed because every great characteristic of a leader is a decision. It's not something you're born with. It's not a golden spoon. It's not a pile of money. It's not the coolest car. It's things like integrity, nobility, being noble, being honorable, being communicative, being generous, being frugal, being disciplined. I don't know if so those are all decisions. So those decisions feed into this and they give your values, they help you to become the person you want to be. And so you decide every one of those. They're decisions. They're decisions you make now to be this person and move forwards in excellence. Okay? So make them clear to you, make them stick, easy to recall, easy to explain, and write them down for your organization. How do you use them daily? I promise we get to this section. I know we're going long here, guys, but this is important information. If you're an entrepreneur and you need core values, this video will do it for you. If you follow these steps, you've created a really good list right now of core values. So you keep the values front and center with you every time you interact with your team members. In any communication that you have with any team members, you keep this front and center. In my meeting today with a team member, I mentioned core value. In my meeting yesterday, multiple meetings, I mentioned core values. In my meeting on Monday, I mentioned core values. In every interaction with a team member or with a group of members of a team, you will mention a core value for the rest of your life as a leader. If you're going to be a great leader. If you're not, remember what I said in the beginning about chief reminding officer? That's who you've become. That's who you've chosen to be. If you've chosen to be an executive of your organization, so many people, they say, I want to be an executive of the organization. They don't realize that means a life of sacrificing what you thought leadership meant it could be. It means you will remind people so much that you are sick and tired of reminding them. Cover the values in hiring. Cover them in every single meeting without fail, briefly. It's not like, okay, now we're going to cover our core value before we start this meeting. That's not what I'm talking about. You're going through the meeting and somebody did something, does something, or says something about something that happened in a section. You're like, excellent example of proactivity. That's what we're looking for, guys. Proactivity is part of our core values. Let's keep moving. All right, display the core values on the walls and your letterhead, on other pieces of media that's going through your company. Make sure the team members see and know that, and they hear you saying these core values. Use them constantly in every area. They're in marketing, they're in your leadership meetings, they're in your uncomfortable conversations, they're in every single section of your organization. Wherever you see a connection, and it's your job as a leader to see a connection between your core values being lived out and their definitions, and to point it out each and every day. And over time, you will talk about them until you are sick of it, and then you will double it. And over time, you will see the values come to life in every area of your organization. If your team members can finish your sentence when you're about to say proactivity means we move, forwards and upwards, right? Never giving up means we always cross the finish line, right? And they can finish it. And you're like, man, I said it again and again, but you have new team members coming into your company all the time. They don't know all of this stuff. That's where you have to have leaders to make sure that they're communicating those core values all the time and telling stories that correlate to those core values to keep them alive throughout your organization. The team will feel the alignment and start producing and the expected and clarity. The team will feel the alignment at this point, and they will start producing the expected and clearly explained culture. They will be producers of cultures at this point, because you have clearly shown to them, these are our core values. This is how we live it out. And you back up the core values with stories as you introduce them to your team and explain them, and you will be more satisfied and less frustrated with your team. And ultimately, you will make more money because you spend time doing stuff that makes a difference instead of time dealing with drama and frustration. And you will sleep better at night, make more money, and be a happier business owner because of these things. If you really invest yourself and you really do this, and you draw these core values out and you invest them into your company and you explain them to your team, and then you communicate them, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot communicate this anymore. At that point, you have to double as much as you communicated. It means there is an infinite amount of communication that you will do around the core values for your organization. And I know it's challenging and I know it's hard, but I guarantee you will see the results as the owner. You will be more happy with the team members that work there. They will be more aligned. They will have a greater sense of purpose in what they do. They will understand that their boss will not let them down, because they would never violate those core values that they plastered right outside their office, or they talk about in their meetings each and every day. And you will build trust like you would never imagine. And the trust being the bedrock for team unity, and the core values being the bedrock for the culture creation in the organization in perfect alignment, so that you can charge forwards and truly create the organization that you dreamt about when you started to sing in the first place. And I hope that's inspiring to you, because it's inspiring to me, and it changed my life and my company. So guys, we're coming to the end of this session. I hope that what I've said has been explanatory and valuable to you. Um, if you have questions about core values, creating core values, or some of the things that I mentioned in this video, please put them in the comments. I see every single one of those comments. If our team member deem them relevant, I see those comments, and I will definitely make sure if it's a question around the topic that we discussed today, we will reply with a very comprehensive answer. Thank you guys. Thank you for sending in these comments. I really appreciate that. And we will reply with an answer to all of the questions that come through. We value those. We love entrepreneurs here. And again, I started my organization so that I could help people provide human resources in areas of their companies, and the Translation and Digital Services Agency. And it's been an incredible, fulfilling process to see values explained, values handed to our teams. Like this is, and when we hired them, we said, like, these are the things that matter to us. These are things that we care about deeply. And if you want to work here, these are the things you're going to have to be too. And if you're not, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to work here. But we, the people who are on our team, they do these things. And when you bring people, they're like, oh my gosh, I love that value. I value that value so much. I'm like, oh, really? Because I value that value too. And you're like, yeah, I really value that. Okay, wow. Well, join our team. Let's build something awesome together. And then you start building and you start creating and you start doing all kind of stuff. And then that team member sees somebody on your team like not doing a core value, like, hey, this person's not kind of like living out that core value. And that's that, like, what do we do? What do I do? It's like, oh, thank you for pointing that out. Now we get to address that and we get to deal with it. Team members themselves start to produce the culture in your organization, and this starts to create a culture of alignment, a culture that's excited about the work that you do, because you're a great leader, because you're actually true to your knitting, because you're congruent, you're consistent in your life, in your values and your activities, and they can see that day after day after day. And when you show up day after day after day and apply the great principles that you decided would make you prosper, then you will win, your company will grow, and you give yourself the greatest opportunity, the greatest chance to weather the storms of life. Because when you have a team that knows you never give up, you always cross the finish line, you never give in, and they know you're committed to that, and they're held to that bar, and you watch them carry that out day after day in projects, you're like, oh my gosh, that there's something profoundly meaningful about it. So I just want to encourage you, go through this process, make it stick in your organization. Don't get weary in well doing, and you will receive rewards beyond your wildest imaginations. Thank you for spending time with me today. I really hope you got something out of this session. Again, my name is Jason Ellinger. I'm the CEO of Taika Translations and the Vision People. And you can like this video and subscribe to our channel. That would mean the world to me. Please copy the link, share it, leave us a review, a 5-star review. Grandma said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So if you have a 5-star review to leave us, please, 5-star. I said I held my hand like 3. 5-star. 5-star review. Please leave that with us, and we would very, very much appreciate that as we continue to grow the channel and increase the influence that we have throughout the marketplace. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 9:30 Eastern, and we're going to go over a next really, really cool topic that is going to talk about what is most important in my organization right now, so that we focus on that, so you can get to even a higher level of clarity through the application of the principles, the core values, and all the things that align with giving our company the best possible chance of succeeding over time. So I'll see you in that video, and thank you so much for spending time with me today.